So, a very good morning to everybody. I hope all of you can see and hear me clearly. Yesterday, there was no class. The class had to be cancelled because of a certain technical issue at my place, at my end. So, we are back again today and we will pick up an article from the Hindu and discuss it. Right. The aim here is to help you understand how to interpret passages. This will help you overall in the long run when you look at different types of passages. Right. So, before going ahead, let me quickly show you the entire week's schedule. You know the schedule now, that and it's something which you see every day, but still it would make a lot of sense if you take a quick look at it, or if you take something like a screenshot and keep it with yourself. Right, so you have it with you. So as I was telling you, the source of the article today is this, and I have taken yesterday's editorial article. In any case, the point here is that you should be able to interpret the passages better. So we will pick and choose articles from different sources, right? And this is what will be like. The first slide is this. Everybody take time to read it, right? And let's see. I'll give you 30 seconds to read it, and then also try the same thing that something that we have been focusing on. First paragraph onwards, try to understand whether you can make sense of what the author is telling you, right? So as I was telling you, remember there are two types of writing, broadly speaking. One, the kind of writing where right from the beginning you understand, acha, this is what is going to speak about, right? First paragraph or the first few lines will be something like the main point, and you know that uske baad aage jaake is going to explain, explanatory kind of writing, जिसको इंडक्टिव राइटिंग भी बोलते हैं, राइट? सो नेम इज नॉट इम्पोर्टेंट, राइट? द अदर काइंड ऑफ राइटिंग इज वेयर द पर्सन डज नॉट give his main point in the beginning, but he summarizes in the end. There is another kind of writing. So both types of writing we should be used to it. Sometimes it could be a slight mix of both also. Okay, so I hope everybody is reading it. Right. So what is it about? What is the passage about? I hope everybody can make sense. So it's about the government not elaborating its reason for not disclosing the data collated in the socio-economic and caste census of 2011. The government's affidavit, right? Affidavit is basically the legal document where you say something, you claim something. It's almost like under oath, right? So exactly oath to nahi lete, but oath jaisa hi hai. It's a legal document where you submit, where where you say that this is the truth. Right. So, Aniket, yes, this is from yesterday's The Hindu. Enumeration is basically listing out, right? So, funny writ petition. What is a writ petition? Writ petition is a kind of a petition, right? It's a legal terminology. If you notice, the government's affidavit, right? It was, if you notice, in response to a writ petition seeking information, seeking some action, right? So, the writ petition was filed by the Maharashtra government, right? And it was filed in the Supreme Court, to which the government replied. So it is almost like a petition, right? A request or a complaint that requires one to produce a kind of a reply or a kind of a response, right? So it is mostly legal terminology. Okay. So the government has tried to explain this non-inclusion of caste enumeration, right? So, and it has tried to, so the government has not disclosed the caste census results, right? And usme added to it, they've also tried to explain that in the forthcoming census, caste is not going to be included. They have tried to explain this. Okay. The official argument focus on the impracticability of caste enumeration. Caste enumeration is listing out. Okay. Suggesting that operational difficulties are too overwhelming. So the reason for this was that the reason for this enumeration was what the reason for this exclusion, right? मतलब caste enumeration ना करने का reason क्या है? It is practical. It is not practical. It is like operational difficulties are too overwhelming. ठीक है? अच्छा, Vicky is asking why there was no editorial class yesterday, because there was a problem in the system which I have, right? So the sound was not working. So without the sound, of course, it would not be, it would not be, the sound system was not working. So without the sound system, it is of no use. Anyway, so I hope everybody read the point, everybody understood. This was the first slide. Next slide is this. Everybody roughly more or less understood. So what kind of writing is this? This is like explanatory writing to a great extent. He has told you the main point. The main point is, right, the government has refused to disclose the results of SECC, and the government has also refused counting of caste in the next census. Reason क्या given है? The reason given is that it is impractical. There are too many operational difficulties, right? Now what do you expect next? You expect the author's comments on this, on the government's actions. So that is what I started here. Let's see. So what is the affidavit? Affidavit, all of you know, is a document which you submit in writing where you state facts, right? Where you give your reply or state facts. So you cannot lie there. Of course, you'll have to provide facts. And if you look at this, FID, FID, FID basically is the origin of the word fate, right? So it is something which is submitted to the court and you cannot lie in this. It's a legal kind of a document. Right. What is humongous? Humongous basically means big. Humongous means nothing else but big. Right. So the operational difficulty was cited by the government like this. In 1931 census, the number of caste was 4,147. Right. And while in 2011, the caste-based, census, the caste-based census which it took place, it returned over 46 lakh caste names. So the government is citing this problem. Now the author is trying to explain ये क्यों हुआ होगा. Such a humongous great number of castes, it was basically because people used the names of their caste, subcaste, clan, gotra, and surname interchangeably. So there are so many intricacies. Right, caste is one big thing, but below the caste, you also have a subcaste, you also have a clan, you have a gotra, you have a surname. So many people confuse these things. That is why the author is saying one of the reasons why there are so many caste names is because of this. Okay. Aman, enumeration basically means number, list karna, count karna. Okay, right. So KAP is saying is discussing the problems faced by including the caste in census, right? अच्छा, अभी तक it's the government's, the government said ये problem है, right? Now he is telling you the reasons for the problems, right? आगे जाके which the question is, okay, one more thing. Moreover, the enumerators also got confused over the spellings and classifications of the caste. So confusion, right? Now, this is what the government said. What is the author's point? The author's point is what you find here. The question is, if the 46 lakh caste names that were returned in the 2000 were the results of mistakes by the enumerators or inherent flaws in the manner of conducting consensus as alleged in the official in affidavit, why could not those mistakes and flaws be rectified in a decade? This is the question. Right. So problem was the result is very confusing because you notice the quotes. Why would the person use quotes? These are words which are exactly taken from the from the from the affidavit, the reply filed by the government. So mistakes committed by the enumerators, people who counted, right, and the inherent flaws in the manner. So there are problems, right. So now the author is asking you the question: if there were problems, why were the problems? Why could they not be corrected in a decade? The data was collected in 2011, so 10 साल हो गया. Why was it not tried to be? Why was it not corrected? So from this, what do you understand now? Is the author simply going to blindly agree with what the government says? Yeah, is he going to question? What do you think? Is he going to blindly agree or is he going to question to the government stand? He is not going to blindly agree. He is saying government का reply ये है कि mistakes made by the enumerators and there are basic problems in the conducting of the census. He says 10 साल हो गया, why has it not been even corrected? Right. So he's going to question. ठीक है. Now once we understand that he's going to question, we will see the next slide. This is where you will be able to understand the ideas quite clearly, right? So passage जब हम पढ़ते हैं, so we should actually read like this. We should be able to proceed like this. So whatever is the point, we should be able to proceed. Let's see. Next. Now, you have already anticipated what is he going to do next. If now the anticipation, it will definitely help you understand the passage better. Let's see. Let's read the first paragraph first and see. And you will find that these are all things which are very valid that the author is raising. Normally, he is telling you about many things which go beneath the surface. Okay? Right. Let's see. Now, the next set of questions he is writing here. The Union Cabinet had appointed an expert committee headed by the then Niti Aayog Vice Chairman Arvind Panagria in July 2015. So, the author is saying there was an expert committee which was appointed in July 2015 in classifying it with the charges of caste names, right? The government's affidavit admits that no other member was appointed to the committee. This is something which is very surprising. एक कमिटी बनाया, right? नीति आयोग वाइस चेयरमैन अरविंद पानीग्री, he was the he headed that committee, but there was only one person in that committee. Nobody else was selected. What does it mean? So the committee never met, nor did it fulfill its mandate in 6 years. Who is responsible for this negligence? So negligence हुआ है. There was an expert committee that was formed, but committee में एक ही आदमी था, head. ठीक है. So of course it could not work. So whose responsibility is this? ठीक है. So the author is laying bare many facts. He is actually questioning the entire thing. ठीक है. So the caste based enumeration 2011 का जो डेटा है उसको पब्लिसाइज नहीं किया. 2022 में जो जो द कंसेंसस होगा, जो नेक्स्ट कंसेंसस होगा, उसमें caste is not going to be counted. The reason given by the government is difficult to manage. There are too many problems in the data, right? Mistakes made by the people who collected the data, right? And complex numbers, right? The author is saying, but what have you done in 10 years to solve it? Somebody was, even the Arvind Panigria, if you notice, is quite an eminent economist. Also, he was selected, but the committee had just one person. So, what is done to solve the problem? देखो, अनिकेत, कास्ट नेम्स रिटर्न का मतलब है, कास्ट नेम्स रिटर्न का मतलब है जब सेंसस काउंट करने के लिए लोग गए थे, सो द कास्ट नेम्स गिवन बाय द पीपल, सो दैट इज द कास्ट नेम्स रिटर्न. मतलब सपोज यू आर अ सेंसस ऑफिसर, व्हेन यू गो कलेक्टिंग डेटा, what the names people gave are the caste names returned. ठीक है. Right. Next paragraph, let's see. The extent of errors in caste enumeration is also being exaggerated. So the author is pointing out the extent in error is also exaggerated. How? Let's see. The affidavit cites the example of Maharashtra. So he is taking, telling you the entire thing. Maharashtra with the aggregate number of caste enlisted in the central list of scheduled caste and ST and the OBC is 494. The caste names returned for the student 422 lakh. So there's a discrepancy. Discrepancy क्या है? The aggregate number of caste enlisted is 494, but the caste names which came back as a result of the census, it was 4.2 lakh. Right. The affidavit also states that 99% of the caste enumerated has a population of less than 100 persons. So if you notice, that means आगे पढ़ के देखते हैं, out of the total population of 10 crore, 8.8 crore should be classified under 2000, for each having a population of 1000. Therefore, the proliferation of caste names and consequent difficulty have arisen not because of majority but a tiny proportion of the local population. Yes, understand now what is it telling you? So this 99% of the caste enumerated had a population of less than 100 people, which means it is only just a small portion of the people, right, who are giving their caste as very complex confusions, right? So out of the 10.3 crore, 8.8 people could be classified under these castes, right? So each having a population of over 1000, right? That means something like around one, it's only 1 crore out of 10.3, 8.8 can be counted. So around 1 crore, आसपास जो है, that is what is creating the problem. So it's a tiny population of the local, population. ठीक है? Understood everybody? Right. So he's saying that the extent, the degree of the error is not great. It is something like in Maharashtra, for example, out of 10.3 crores, 8.8 you can classify easily in 2440, right? 4.2, therefore 4.28 lakhs का जो remaining है, that covered less than 1 crore of the people. So the problem is created by less than 1 crore. ठीक है? Right. Now, next slide, let's see. Right. Now, I hope all of you will be able to read and understand this. Right. So, he is telling you about so what is he telling you here in this slide? Here he is telling you that the problem, right, the government is telling you that the data is fraught with mistakes and inaccuracies, right? But then out of, if you notice, right, the error is like out of 118.64 crore, the error is there in just 1 crore. So it is not, it's a small part of the population that had this problem, right? So it cannot be fraught with mistakes. 118 crore में से 1 crore में problem है. So does it mean that the whole problem, the whole data is a problem? No, right? So this was the first slide. So guys, just give me a minute. There's a slight problem here. There are sparks in the room. Just give me a minute. In the meantime, please read this slide. I'll be back in 2 seconds. Sorry guys, I had to get up because there was a spark in extension code. So I had to change it. Anyway, I hope everybody has read it. Right. So previous slide क्या था? The previous slide he was telling you about how the problem is there in just 1% of the entire data. So you cannot say that the whole data is fraught with problems. Okay, this was the problem, right? Okay, right. Now what does the author say? Right. So yes, Siddharth and Vicky, everything fine. I mean, there was a short circuit. I think there were some sparks coming in the connection, so I had to switch it off. Anyway, so everybody got the point, right? Next slide. Let's see. Right. Population. She is telling you that population census in a country like India, it will be complex. Just because you have problem in 1%, you cannot say that the whole data is fraud. So it cannot be. It's a very vast and unique country. So the population census in India cannot be a simple exercise. It will have to be complex, right? Over the decades, the census machinery has moved on a learning curve. मतलब What is telling you is that it is something which can only improve with time. Okay? And he's giving you examples. For instance, right, as per paper 1 of 2018 of the language according to the language census, mother tongues total the 19,000, right. Following scrutiny, it was rationalized to 1,369. So people replied, according to people's reply, there were 19,000 languages, mother tongues, right, but it was rationalized to 1,369 because many people would have spoken about the same language as different mother tongues. Okay, so he's giving you an example. At least 10,000 or more speakers, right? So in a way, these raw returns were rationalized to 1,369 and subsequently classified on the basis of at least 10,000 or more speakers for 22 scheduled and 99 non-scheduled languages. So in India, now it was finally rationalized to 121 languages, right? So this is basically the 121 languages. Pehle, when the census was done, it came to be 19,000. Okay, he is giving you an example how things can be worked out, right? Just तरह the number of caste returns, as in the number of castes which came out to be quite high according to the census, it can be corrected just as the language, problem was corrected. Okay, let's see. Next slide is this. Yes, KAP, yes, that is what is the author telling you. The author is saying is, it is not impossibly complex. You cannot leave it because it is complex. Even if there is complex, it is bound to be complex because it's a huge country. Just as the language problem was settled, you can also settle this caste issue. That is what the author is trying to tell you. Understood this, I hope? KAP understood, I hope? Right, everybody is reading it, I hope. Let's see. Niket, what are you saying? 121 seems to be a smaller number for a country like ours. देखो 121 languages rationalize किया है, right? बहुत सारे count नहीं किया. कैसे? What was the criteria? अगर 10,000 से कम, if the number of speakers is less than 10,000, it was not counted. Otherwise, I mean, it will be, it would be like, देखो, for example, if you look at it, if you look at every village will have a separate, slightly different dialect. All of them cannot be counted. So rationalization is what they were saying. So ऐसे करके he is saying rationalization can be done, right? The author admits that in this paragraph, caste is more complex than language, right? But he's also telling you that the technology has also become advanced. Caste is something which is more complex, but then you have technology, right? So then he says, the affidavit says that there is no all India registry of castes, right? So to find out India mein kitne caste hai, actually there is no registry. The author is asking you, why can't it be done? Very simply, it can be done very easily by combining the central list of SCs, STs and the state list of OBCs. It's a very simple thing, right? In a way, registry of caste find out करने के लिए best thing क्या है? SC, ST के जो list है, right? उसको combine कर लो along with the state list of OBCs. You will be very easily able to find out. He is only telling you a certain ways. इससे भी और बहुत सारे ways हो सकते हैं. ठीक है? Next paragraph, what is he saying? The aggregate number of castes and tribes included in those lists would be currently around 5,000. So the list he's even telling you, SC, ST and OBCs का अगर आप list बनाओगे, right, the number would be currently about around 5,000. Right, so he's giving you a model in which you rationalize, right? So if you make a list like this, it will be around 5,000. For any individual state, the maximum number of castes cannot be above 500. Again, another rationalization. For any individual state, the maximum number of castes, right, cannot be above 500. Rationalization and classification returns into a maximum of 500 castes at the state level of or around 5,000 castes. So he is telling you this is very feasible, right? So keep a check like one state cannot have more than 500 castes. At the national level, the total number of castes cannot be more than 5,000. So training manuals can be drawn up. He is telling you, right? If the caste, the people who count, who did the census, if they are not skilled, you can train them also. Right. So that is what the author is telling you, correct, KP? So the author is telling you, right, that yes, this is one way to keep it. Okay. All clear, I hope. Right. So training could have been done, many things could have been done to solve the problem. Right. Now, so the author is pointing out what this could have been attained by expert community appointed by the Union Cabinet, but for its innate, this which was the cabinet, which was the expert committee, which had Arvind Panigre as the head, right? And it was there was us committee में एक ही expert था. So what will he do? एक ही आदमी था, not just expert, just one, one good human being. राइट अनिकेत लॉजिस्टिक्स क्या होता है लॉजिस्टिक्स बेसिकली मीन्स द फैसिलिटीज रिक्वायर्ड राइट वो लॉजिस्टिक्स क्या होता है लॉजिस्टिक्स इज बेसिकली नथिंग एल्स बट the facilities includes the facilities required, right? So the logistics of of an organization matlab how do you run it, how do you run the organization? So it was impossible, so it's like the facilities required to run it. So now, so the government, he's questioning the government directly. The expert committee could have solved this problem, right? Then he's attacking point by point. Let's see. Right. Again, in this next paragraph, if you read carefully, the government affidavit contained the legal problem also. What is it? Right. The government's affidavit, the reply which they submitted in the court, right? It says that there is no categorical constitutional, matlab, as per the constitution, statutory requirement, matlab, but statutory requirement means as per the statutes, as per the law. So the author is, the government is telling us that there is no requirement by the constitution or by the law to count castes other than SCs and STs in the census. Again, the government says there is no need to count the caste, right? Other than SCs and STs, there is no need to count caste according to the constitution or according to the law. But the author tells you ऐसा है. Article 15.4 and 15.5 of the Indian Constitution have explicitly recognized social and educational backward classes of citizens as distinct from SCs and STs, and enable the state to make special provisions for their advancement. Counting would the backward class would be very much within the constitutional framework, right? So if you notice, the government also tries to give a legal argument. The author is saying that legal argument also has no value, is also not valid, right? Getting the point? So he's attacking the government's argument point by point. ठीक है, so this is what you normally expect in the Hindu, and ये होता भी है, right? So does not indulge in, if you look at it, you focus more on arguments, right? Focus on fair facts, arguments, and data rather than anything else. Everybody understood? Aniket, what could be the causes behind the reluctance of the government? I do not know, right? वो हम नहीं कह सकते, right? Towards the end, we will try to understand, right? The author gives you a hint, ठीक है, that problem क्या हो सकता है? So why is the government reluctant? Let's see. Because अभी तक so far, as you notice now, it looks like the government is strongly trying to defend its position of not counting castes and not revealing the data already given there by the census of 2011. ठीक है, so what could be the vested and what could be the reason? Let's see. Right, let's see. Just this is the last slide, so you will be able to understand the question that Aniket you are asking. The author tries to partially answer in the last paragraph, but before that, let's read this paragraph and see. So the author was, the government was saying there is no legal requirement, right? But he tells you that under article so and so, it would be definitely well within the constitution to count the number of those castes, right? He's giving you another example. Let's see. Though the affidavit also alleges, matlab claims, full caste enumeration, matlab counting of the caste. Enumeration is counting, right? The affidavit says that the basic integrity of the census exercise, right, it will compromise the integrity of the census, matlab it will spoil the whole value, matlab पूरा खराब कर देगा, distorting the fundamental population count itself. So it will affect the final result. So that is what the author is saying. It will affect, if you enumerate the caste, it will affect the number, it will affect the final result. The author is also giving, this is the government's argument. And the next argument, if you see, is the author's argument where he says, if SC and ST count करने से from 1951 onwards, SC and ST and other caste, you have always counted them in the census. It has not led to any perverse outcomes. Perverse here means distorted, right? So why should the additional enumeration cause such a disaster, such deliberate scaremongering? What is scaremongering? Scaremongering means spreading rumors and making people feel insecure. Right. So notice now the author is straight away training his guns on the government. Right. So what is the government's argument? That this enumeration of caste, it will cause problems in the final figure. But the author is saying ये तो 1951 से होते आ रहा है. You have always counted SC and ST and other categories. It has not led to any problem. So suddenly by adding OBC, what is going to be the problem? So he's saying this is just trying to make people scared. Scaremongering is basically that. Okay, spreading fear. Right. Now, the last paragraph of the slide will try to address what could be the problem. Why could the government be trying to hide it? So the whole issue is, देखो, we have a list of SCs, we have a list of STs. The problem is the other castes, right, which are considered backward but not SCs and STs. That castes, it is not listed. People are not counted according to that caste. Right. So the result was found in 2011, but it was not revealed. Why was it not? So that is what the author is trying to point out. So the logistical matlab, in the problem in organizing, the problem in running the entire, show. Read it for some time, you'll understand what the author wants to target. So the logistical or legal justifications of the union government to not disclose caste census data and refuse to conduct the, so class census ka data already ho chuka hai, they did not reveal it, and they did not conduct the full caste enumeration in the fourth. So he's saying, the reasons given by the government are logistical and legal. It does not stand the scrutiny, right? Matlab it is not legal, it's not justified. Rather, what is it? It creates ground for suspicion whether the establishment has vested interest in concealing the real numbers and proportion of various castes, right? So this is this is the author's point, right? So if there is no justification legally or logistically, it creates ground for suspicion that the government could be hiding it purely because the result could hurt its chances. Getting the point? So the result could be against it, in the sense that if the government has interest in concealing the real numbers, right? So such subterfuge. What is the meaning of subterfuge? Subterfuge is something like sabotage, right? जानबूझ के किसी चीज को मैनिपुलेट करके चेंज कर देना. So that is subterfuge. So subterfuge is using manipulation and using deliberate means to distort, change something, right? Manipulate करना. ठीक है? So such subterfuge would not be acceptable to a wide spectrum of social movements and political parties who are demanding full caste enumeration, right? So why is it not properly counted? According to the author, should be properly counted, right? Legal, the government gives legal and logistical reasons, but the author says ऐसा कुछ है नहीं. He's given you point by point. He has completely debunked it, right? Now, so if it is not these, what could be the reasons? Vested interests by the government. So that is what the author is trying to tell you. I hope everybody understood, right? So with that, we come to the end of the exercise, right? I will meet you again tomorrow with another article, right? Another article, let's see. And these are the courses which are still open. There is this, those of you who are still planning to prepare for CAT 2021, there is a 2-month crash course. Those who are opting for a longer run can think of this particular course. It is it will prepare you for CAT 2022, so you have time to prepare. Right. And there's also this course which helps you prepare for other exams, right? And this will go on till 2022. Of course, if you look at this, right? So these exams, some of them, they will be conducted in 2022. Okay, right? So these are your teachers. With that, we come to the end of the session. I hope everybody understood. One of you is asking me, Himanshu, questions we will pick up soon. The only problem is questions. We will see, right? But the idea is the purpose of the session is editorial analysis. So let's focus on that. Right. Anyway, let's see. Questions may be which मैं कराता रहूँगा. Don't worry. Right. Anyway, and if you really need questions, a session on previous year questions, you should send in a request, right? Otherwise, it will not be considered. I mean, it will be difficult to highlight. So if you require sessions on questions, you can just send in the request. Okay, right? You can send your suggestions. Right. So that's it for today. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day. See you again tomorrow.